When God is about to give you something big, you'll see these signs. If your life feels more unstable than usual right now, plans delayed, doors closing, people changing, don't rush to call it failure. What if the chaos you're fighting is not a sign you're losing, but a sign God is rearranging things for a purpose? There are seasons when God doesn't fix your situation immediately. He fixes you first. So when what you've been praying for finally arrives, it doesn't crush you, expose you, or slip through your hands. And hear this clearly. If this is you, don't quit because you're not cursed. You're being calibrated. I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to prepare you. Most people miss this moment because they interpret pressure as rejection, delay as denial, and isolation as abandonment, when it may be God clearing space and building strength for what's next. In the next few minutes, I'm going to share 5 signs that often appear right before God gives you something big. If messages like this help you stay steady in your waiting season, subscribe to God's Whisper so you don't walk these nights alone. Stay with me because sign number 5 is the one most people misunderstand, and it decides whether you hold the blessing or drop it right at the door. The first sign is not always drama. Sometimes it's weight. And this season isn't trying to kill you. It's trying to grow you. Responsibility increases faster than you expected, and suddenly you're managing money, managing emotions, managing time, managing people, managing outcomes. The margin you used to have is gone. You don't even feel sad anymore. You feel accountable. Because if you fall apart, things around you fall apart too. Now listen carefully because this is where most people misread what God is doing. They see pressure and assume punishment. They feel strain and call it rejection. They think, if God was with me, it wouldn't be this heavy. But what if the weight is not proof you're failing? What if the weight is proof you're being strengthened? This isn't an attack meant to destroy you. This is a load meant to stabilize you. The next level of blessing doesn't only require favor. It requires foundation. It requires capacity. Because even a good gift can crush a small inner life. Even an open door can become a trap when your character is still bleeding. If you've been carrying more than you can explain, this is for you. He said in James 1:2-3, when troubles, your endurance has a chance to grow. That isn't a cute quote. It's a spiritual map. It means your trials are not random. They are training. God is building endurance, the kind you'll need to hold what you prayed for without panicking, quitting, or sabotaging it when it finally arrives. So change the prayer. Don't just say, Lord, make it easy. Say, Lord, make me solid. Simplify what distracts you. Stop bleeding energy into what won't matter a year from now. Protect your sleep. Protect your boundaries. Protect quiet time with God like it's oxygen. Because in heavy seasons, it is. The weight is not proof that God is far. The weight may be proof that God is expanding your capacity. The second sign feels personal, but it's often protection. People start drifting without a dramatic fight. Conversations go quiet. The circle gets smaller. Doors close that you were sure had God's name on them, and you can't even explain why. You just know what used to feel familiar now feels distant, and what used to feel open now feels sealed. And here is the shock. What you call loss may be God's mercy. This is where your heart wants to chase. You want answers, closure, reassurance. You want to pull people back into place and force what's slipping away. But hear me, God is not subtracting to punish you. He is subtracting to position you. Some connections are not evil. They're simply not built for where you're going. Some doors are not closing because you failed, but because God refuses to let you enter a room that would shrink your calling. This is not God making you less loved. This is God making you more aligned. And this is the part most people don't want to accept. Not everyone can honor what God is building in you. Some people only know how to relate to the old version of you, and they will demand it back, right when God is forming something new. If you keep dragging what God is trying to release, you will delay what He is trying to deliver. Divine subtraction is often the grace you don't recognize until later. Jesus said in John 15:2, He prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. Pruning is not rejection. Pruning is proof of intention. It means God sees fruit on your life, and He refuses to let anything unnecessary drain your growth. So stop chasing what God is removing. Stop begging for what God is blocking. Make room. Cut off the habits that pull you backward. Step away from environments that dull your spirit. Silence the voices that make you doubt who God is shaping you to become. And be covered. Be private with what God is building. Speak less about your plans and go deeper in discipline. God is not subtracting because He is stingy. God is subtracting because He is clearing space for something big. Sign 2 is when God changes what's around you. Sign 3 is when God changes what's inside you. This one is quieter, but it is powerful. You start losing appetite for what used to entertain you. The drama feels childish. The surface-level conversations feel empty. Old habits that once felt normal begin to feel heavy. And you can't always explain it, because nothing big happened on the outside, yet something has shifted on the inside. Many people get scared here and label it as burnout, boredom, or something wrong with me. But hear me, you are not falling apart. You are waking up. You didn't lose interest, you gained discernment. God has a way of making the old life feel too small before He brings you into the new one. He starts changing your desires before He changes your circumstances. That restlessness is not random, it can be divine. It is the uncomfortable mercy of God, refusing to let you stay numb. You become more sensitive to what pulls you away from Him. Things you once tolerated start disturbing your peace. You feel a strange pull toward prayer, toward scripture, toward cleanliness of heart, toward seriousness. Not because you're trying to be perfect, but because your soul is being realigned. And if you ignore this sign, you will keep trying to fit back into a life that God has already made uncomfortable on purpose. He said in Isaiah 43:19, "I am doing a new thing. Do you not perceive it?" That question matters. Do you perceive it? God often announces the new season through inner hunger before you see outer evidence. So don't numb the awakening with constant noise. Create space, add silence, add the Word of God, add discipline that protects your mind and strengthens your spirit. Decide your new boundary, what you will no longer return to, what you will no longer excuse, what you will no longer call normal when it keeps you spiritually sleepy. If you can't tolerate the old life anymore, it may be because God is no longer allowing you to sleep peacefully inside it. If you're tired, that doesn't prove you're failing. It proves you've been carrying more than you were meant to carry alone. God didn't lead you into this season to watch you collapse. He led you here to rebuild your foundation. Because what you've been praying for won't just require excitement, it will require stability. And hear this, peace is not the prize at the end. Peace is how God keeps you alive on the way there. So breathe. Release what you've been gripping in fear. Stay faithful in this moment, because God is preparing the ground you'll stand on when the blessing arrives. Sign 4. This is the sign that tests almost everyone. You're close, but not there. It feels like you're standing at the door with your hand on the handle, and it still won't open. You get one step away and then it slips. It almost happens, and then it almost happens again. And after a while, the delay stops feeling like a season and starts feeling like a verdict. You begin to question the timing, and then you begin to question yourself. But listen, delay is not always denial. Sometimes delay is God's yes with protection wrapped around it. God is not cruel, and He is not confused. He is careful. There are blessings that are too heavy for an unhealed heart. There are open doors that would expose you if you walk through them too early. Some of God's no's are simply not yet, disguised as silence. So when God makes you wait, it is not because He forgot you. It may be because He refuses to let you enter what you're not yet ready to hold. Joseph's prison wasn't punishment, it was positioning. God was building the kind of strength Joseph would need to carry favor without pride, authority without revenge, and success without losing his soul. That is what delay does when you let God use it. It does not just slow the promise, it strengthens the person. He said in Habakkuk 2:3, "Though it linger, wait for it, it will not delay." That sounds like a contradiction until you understand God's timing. It may linger in your feelings, but it will not be late in His plan. So don't spend this season only asking, when? Ask, who am I becoming? Heal what still bleeds. Learn what you keep avoiding. Build discipline where you've been unstable. Clean your motives where you've been desperate. And pray the prayer that changes everything. Lord, I choose your timing over my impatience. God is not saying no. He is making you safe to receive yes. And then the pieces start lining up. An opportunity appears you don't have to beg for, and a path opens you don't have to force. That's how you know it's God. Movement without manipulation. But here's the pivot. The moment things start aligning, the distraction gets louder. Stay steady, stay private, and guard your peace, because what God is opening is real. Sign 5. This is the sign most people misunderstand, and it's why they drop the blessing at the door. Right when things begin to align, the noise gets louder. Drama increases, misunderstandings multiply. You feel more easily triggered. Old temptations suddenly return with perfect timing, and you feel an urgency to react fast, speak fast, decide fast, because part of you believes, if I don't respond right now, I'll lose control. But hear me, the enemy doesn't always need a big punch to stop you. Sometimes he only needs a wrong reaction. He knows he can't cancel what God has ordained, so he tries to contaminate your spirit before you receive it. He tries to pull you into offense, impulsiveness, and unnecessary battles because a distracted heart can't carry a holy gift with clean hands. This is why you must stop interpreting every conflict as a sign to fight. Sometimes it's a sign to guard. He said in Ephesians 6:12, "We wrestle not against flesh and blood." That means the real battle is rarely the person, the comment, the message, the situation. The real battle is what it's trying to awaken inside you. Pride, fear, control, lust, bitterness, the need to prove yourself. If the enemy can get you to react from those places, he can make you sabotage what God is building without ever touching the promise itself. So here's the discipline that saves you. The 10-second rule. Stop, breathe, pray one sentence, then respond. Not from heat, but from holiness. And when the door begins to open, simplify your life. Talk less, show less, ask fewer opinions, keep your plans covered. Not because you're hiding, but because you're protecting what is fragile in its early stages. Guard your peace like you guard your season, because peace is not weakness. Peace is power under control. Sign number 5 isn't here to scare you. It's here to rescue you, so you don't ruin your season right at the door. Before you go, say this out loud, because faith grows when your words agree with what God is forming in you. God, make me safe to hold what you're about to give. I will protect my peace as my preparation. I will not chase what you removed. I will not panic and delay. I will stay ready when the door opens. Say it again, this time with faith, not fear. Now let me pray with you. Lord Jesus, strengthen the one listening right now. Give them endurance for the weight they're carrying, peace in the middle of pressure, and clarity where confusion has tried to settle. Heal what still bleeds beneath the surface. Cleanse their motives. Sharpen their discernment. Teach them to wait without weakening and to walk without striving. When distractions rise and the noise grows louder, guard their hearts and steady their steps, so when the blessing arrives, they don't drop it at the door. Hear this before you move on. You are closer than you think. God is not only preparing the promise, He is preparing you. If this message spoke to your spirit, type, "God prepare me" in the comments. Send this to someone walking through a hard season who needs strength tonight. And if you want more messages like this, stay with God's Whisper. Subscribe, and let's keep walking together.